Welcome back, you bunch of lovely people, to our latest week of the Quake Pro League. My name is Ketchup, joined by Flea, but as we are just about to start our first featured matchup of the day with cha1n versus rapha, let's bring in the old faithful DJ Wheat. How's it going, bro?
I thought you were just going to stop at old Ketchup. Let's bring in the old guy, DJ. Hey, everyone, what's up? Happy Sunday. Glad to be here once again for some more Quake. Some interesting matchups so far. So, yeah, it's great. It's the right day for Quake.
I didn't realize what I was saying until I was halfway through, and I just dedicated. I was going to go the old faithful, but I really emphasized the old. It was totally unrelated, but I guess for Quake it's fitting.
I also thought you were just going to stop right there. So bring in the old DJ Weed. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, it's more prominent in Quake than ever. But I think that is very much to be celebrated, isn't it? Because it's the absolute clash of generations in Quake Champions, and you love to see it. Not a lot of esports in general, I think, can say they have that storyline. And Quake is the granddaddy of them all, so it's fitting. Let's now jump into rapha versus cha1n, though, which is actually very much that generation gap that we discussed. rapha, who's been around for a long time, and cha1n, one of the kind of younger players in the Americas.
Yeah. I mean... Oh, yeah, go ahead, Flea.
Oh, no, I wasn't really going to say much other than indeed, yeah, cha1n is one of the newer players to the scene, someone who not that long ago we really pinned as being perhaps top 2 NA even, right? After somewhat overcoming the hang on a few different occasions. I think it was stage 1 of this season that cha1n finished number 2 on the Americas leaderboards, but ever since, he just hasn't really been able to live up to that hype, I feel like.
I completely agree, Flea. I mean, we have been a little flabbergasted by cha1n's performance, given that he really was showing these signs of a breakthrough. And it's not that he hasn't had these, moments of brilliance that have taken place, but he's not really been able to string them together in any results that have been notable, whether you are a commentator, another player, or just a fan watching. So, I mean, obviously versus a beast like rapha, we know what rapha's capable. We know that he's undefeated. We know that he's not lost a map yet. He's looking to continue that dominance. cha1n, on the other hand, right, all eyes on him. Last week we saw, quite the serving of just devastation by rapha against Sib. And, I think the biggest thing to take away here is that cha1n needs to try to, up his game and at least post something up against rapha.
It's quite the obstacle. There's no other way to put it. But let's take a look at the picks and bans, and we'll look at the maps and champions and all that good stuff. I do believe that we are starting with a rather traditional rapha beginning, which is Veil of Nath, although cha1n going in with it, removing Scalebearer from play. Sorry, Wheat. It's going to be Keel versus Galena, Corrupted Keep afterwards, BJ versus the Ranger. And I've got to say, looked a lot like a respect ban, taking that Athena away from cha1n, always a good idea. And then Awoken, Anarchy versus Nyx.
Fun to see we're again getting 2 lights going up against each other. We saw it earlier, Athena versus Nyx. Now we're getting Anarchy versus Nyx on Awoken once more. Other than that, Corrupted Key, pretty standard stuff, right? Ranger versus BJ. We know that rapha loves to run the Blazkowicz on that map in particular. And cha1n, the Ranger works really well as well. You've got the burst damage up close, and you've got a whole lot of mobility on a map that doesn't even have a railgun. Now the only map where the stacks are out of sync is really the first one, Veil of Nath, rapha running the Keel, and we saw some pretty impressive stuff with that champion just moments ago when Cygib ran him against Nosfa.
I completely agree on that first map, and that's been a story of control with rapha and just trying to complete denial of it. So I think that one's going to be tough for cha1n. We got a chance during one of the interviews with rapha to talk a little bit about Keep and BJ. It sounds like it still continues to be his preferred pick, but he also had some great success with Sorlag a couple of weeks ago. In this particular case, that's one area that I would just be incredibly scared of going up against rapha. I think he has bought the real estate of Corrupted Keep. Sorry, Razy. But he's just continuously looked so impressive on it. And then Awoken, I'm interested in. I love these picks. I think it's going to be very much a high octane matchup with the Anarchy and the Nyx, but still kind of feel like the Ghostwalk can favor those engagements, whether offensive or defensive.
I'm feeling almost a bit nostalgic seeing rapha play Keel on Veil of Nath, because it always kind of reminds me of when Veil kind of first began being in the competitive rotation. It wasn't a particularly favored map by a lot of players. A lot of players kind of always felt like they went out of their way to avoid it. And then here comes rapha, who just picks Keel on this map and is like untouchable up until that fateful major in Italy where Razy earned his name, the Godslayer. That was the point where rapha on that map just looked like no one could challenge him. Crazy how long ago it was already at this point. So much has happened since then. But looks like both of these players are bringing in their ready ups at the very least, so we'll be jumping into this match as soon as. And on that note, I'll leave you in the very capable hands of DJ Wheat and Flea to take it away.
All right, we'll try to behave, Ketchup. Thank you so much, Flea. Great to see you again.
Yeah.
Happy Quake Sunday as well. And you know, I think I don't know. I haven't really looked at the predictions yet, but I could kind of imagine I could make a prediction on where I think things are. 97% in favor of Rapha, 3% for cha1n, and this continues to kind of be the story here of stage 3. Although Rapha did not have a perfect run in the last, which is a tall order, period, in the story, but he has absolutely been putting in the effort. I think he wants to see if he can achieve perfection again. So that's one of the storylines, definitely keeping an eye on this one. And it comes down to the question of, can cha1n even take a map here?
I mean, rapha, like you just said, hasn't dropped a single map so far, and cha1n hasn't really been playing at the level that we know he is capable of, right? Stage 2 finals, he lost his 2 first matches instantly. He lost to, if I'm not mistaken, he lost to Sip among one of those, and then Cypher as well, knocked him clean out of the tournament. And ever since, he's only managed to beat Effortless and lost to every other player that he went up against. Now, that being said, his previous match was against the Hang, and it came down to just one single frag. We'd one more kill for cha1n, and he would have walked away with the victory. Now, he ended up losing 1-2, but there were some good signs of life in him in that previous encounter. So maybe he can take away a map, but I think that the odds are massively stacked in rapha's favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that would be probably a great stepping stone for cha1n, but as you have seen week after week, rapha is in an immaculate form. I think he himself has seen the improvement from other players across the regions and has said, I don't want to be left in anyone's dust. I'm gonna keep up, which just makes him even more scary, Flea. That's the part that is a little wild to watch. But it looks like we are finally getting the go ahead here as we count things down, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to be kicking things off through the eyes of rapha. And look for that early, attempt for control. In fact, this is aggressive control here. This might be a little scary as he decides to go a little bit too hard on that one. He did pick up the heavy. I understand why he decided to do that, but with nothing other than that machine gun really waiting for that RL to spawn, he didn't really have a whole lot of options. cha1n played that one nicely. He nets the first frag.
And cha1n also didn't pick up Mega before heading into that fight. So that means that he still had that to fall back on after he got the frag. And he's now turned that into 2 kills already in the first half minute of this map. Now rapha does have a pretty good read on when the item is about to spawn. He's in full position. And I think that knowing rapha, this is just one of the ways that he likes to play, right? He has zero problem sacrificing 1 or 2 frags if it means consistent control afterwards. And that's exactly what he's setting up for now. First he gets Mega, now he wants to make a move on the heavy as well. But he's got to be careful because cha1n, those rockets have been looking mighty fine, but can't connect when it's needed the most.
And that's a rough for cha1n there. I mean, winning that battle would have gotten him the heavy, and that could have let him continue on that reign of terror. But you can already see the very aggressive way that rapha is choosing to play. Now, it's almost as if he still got his scale picked, right? Because this is the same type of style that we see rapha deploy when he's on that scale bearer and just feels like I can bully my opponent. We've seen some great direct rockets come out from cha1n, but rapha answers back with one of his own and finds himself very, very low. He's got to be careful here as he does get machine gunned down, and cha1n actually brings it back after rapha picked up 2 more.
rapha missing a very easy railgun right there. after knocking cha1n clean up in the air over at heavy. And I think that ultimately led to his demise, as cha1n, his aim is on point. Back-to-back rails. Rapha currently landing only one railgun shot, Wheat. 12% railgun for Rapha versus 85 by cha1n. And that explains why the Canadian is still in the lead by now.
Yeah, he's hitting just phenomenal rails, Flea. And on top of that, it's very rare when Rapha finds himself in a situation of like not having major item control. And cha1n has kind of been rolling with things right now. He is in this sort of lead in terms of pickups. Doesn't mean a whole lot, and we still have a ton of time left in this matchup. But those are the things you do need to do in order to take maps away from Rapha. So cha1n, I think, very smartly disengages from that last fight there. And I like how he is emphasizing that medium to long range game. He's not letting Rapha get into his face. He's trying to hit those long range rails. That was a great little bit of tri-bolt damage. He's got the totem set up to use offensively. And here we go inside the rocket launcher room. Oh, he uses the totem to heal back up. Nice rocket and a second one. And cha1n is up 5-2.
Indeed it is. Lands a pretty good shot of the spawn as well, but it's pretty low. Hang on, that is a very nice horizontal rocket jump, granting him the heavy. And now another shot, and Rapha is railable right now, pushes through, takes a lot of totem damage as well. 10 points of health. cha1n will find him just before the mega spawns, and now the Singularity player has a 4-frag lead, but those pineapples, oh my goodness, that should have been a 5-frag lead if it wasn't for those 2 grenades to the face.
That would have been nice to see. There have definitely been some really solid grenades. cha1n does hit the rail, gets a rocket, and then follows up with the shotgun, and then another rail off the spawn. And I'm not gonna lie, Flea, I'm a little surprised to see Rapha continuing the aggression, right? He is kind of just throwing frags, you know, cha1n's way, and cha1n is playing correctly to be able to capitalize on the way that Rapha is trying to play. But 4 minutes and 20 seconds in, cha1n is with a 6-frag lead, and that is by no means a small lead against a player like Rapha.
Indeed it isn't. I mean, I feel this kind of reminds me of Veil of Nath in the Stage 2 finals when it was Rapha versus Maxter, and we saw, I think, one of the worst scorelines against Rapha we've ever seen in the Quake Pro League, and now cha1n on the same map, somewhat running away with a 5-frag lead, but here we go. Rapha gets a frag at just the right time as well, right before heavy spawns, takes away the armor, now positions himself on top of the mega as well, no doubt, after doing a bit more damage here. Oh, hang on! Ooh, that was much closer than it had any right to be. Yeah, indeed, that aggression, like you said, Rapha put himself in a very precarious situation.
And I understand, right? It's worked for him in the past. I think that the difference that we're seeing here is that cha1n's aim is on. His rockets are hitting perfectly. He's landing the super phenomenal rails, and Rapha's still dishing out his own. But if you're going to be aggressive versus a player who's, you know, hitting their shots, that could turn out pretty bad. Now, that's 6 frag leads now down to 4 frags, and I think Rapha finds himself for the first time with a little bit more control than he had previously. Question is he gonna slow it down? Is he gonna keep up with that aggression? Right? What is his game plan in the second half of this game? Is it to makes his way into the heavy room? LG battle coming out, looking for that shotgun blast. Another great rocket coming down. Do have some totem healing up. Will he land the rail? He misses the rail. Gonna get rid of that totem in the heavy room, and no one will frag off of that fight.
That was a critical play by cha1n right there. I feel like that could have very easily been, you know, that standard Rapha tipping point where he gets the 1 frag and when he just establishes full control and then just runs over his opponent time and time again. But cha1n somehow evaded death, managing to do a whole lot of damage, holding Rapha at bay, but still ends up dropping the frag.
cha1n's doing a good job of not following the playbook of aggression here, and has definitely been, you know, making Rapha earn these frags here, hitting some nice shots, some pre-fired. plasma. The rails coming out though from rapha, and then switches to the LG. Very, very low. He's just gonna go for it, and that is the 4th or 5th time we've seen rapha just like basically high dive off the top of the map and go for it. He loses the heavy after cha1n spawns and grabs that. That could be good for cha1n. We'll have to see what happens here. cha1n coming in after grabbing himself a rocket launcher, forcing rapha to disengage, and we have less than 3 minutes left to go. cha1n still in the lead.
Canadian player also secures the mega, but this is a dangerous position he's putting himself in. That is the kill box, right? That rocket area up against the keel. We've seen it go wrong so many times in the past, and there we go. It's a trade that is going to end up favoring cha1n somewhat. He's keeping that 2 frag of a difference between the two, and he gets the better spawn as well. Immediately gets the heavy, and he's pushing in. One more shotgun blast should do it, and he will clean it up.
Yeah, it's like suddenly there is a very, very clear possibility that rapha could lose this matchup. He does an enormous amount of damage here. Has cha1n maybe trapped down below. It looks like he's gonna go. Oh my gosh, rapha had the opportunity. He was only down to about 50 points of health, but cha1n was right underneath him. He's instead going to just double back, grab himself the heavy, but he's got to be thinking about how he is going to get not only this next frag, and a fight here in the rocket room, and cha1n, once again, his rockets are just perfect. He's getting those perfect bounces. He's landing the follow-ups very nicely, and he's got a 4 frag lead going into the final 2 minutes. In fact, 90 seconds here, Flea, and I think there could be some very, very rich point owners here in the Quake channel after this matchup. We're going to have to see, but less than a minute 20 to go for rapha to somehow make up 4 frags.
I think it was 27-1, the ratio at the very end. So that could easily lead to a huge payout, but we're not done just yet, right? If there's anyone who can make a comeback like this happen with any sort of consistency, it's rapha.
Completely agree. And here we go. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Through the rocket room. And then will we see a follow-up frag here? They definitely, rapha's going for it. rapha very, very low on that one, but still comes out healthy. He needs 2 frags now, picks himself up a railgun that cha1n left behind. Less than 1 minute left to go. And I'll tell you what, I think he might earn another title if he somehow manages to pull this one back out. But this is a big map. cha1n definitely seems to know exactly what he's doing. Huge rocket coming out, hitting over the mega. He doesn't grab it back through the teleporter, but can he follow up with the frag? He does, and he now very, very low, has 20 seconds left to find a final frag.
Can he do it? We've seen it so often in the past. rapha has got the better stack. He's also got the weapons to work with, but he doesn't know where cha1n is at. That rail going to kind of give it away. Now cha1n going up. This is so messy. rapha, 1 rocket, 2, and he ties it up with 4 seconds left to go. Oh my God, cha1n.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. rapha very, very low right now. He did pick up the 250s, but this is a very, very crucial time. cha1n firing some LG into the rocket room. Heavy is up. rapha looking for that rail, but it's going to take a single shot, miss it, and then back out. He, I think in this position, you don't try to go for that frag quickly. You play it to win it. And rapha's stack's not looking super phenomenal right now. cha1n did get hit with that rail, so we're about even. rapha's going to grab a light, pick up a little bit more health, and haven't seen a whole lot of grenade usage come out here in the last few moments, but I think it's been all about just securing the bag here. But I cannot believe that we have just gotten up to this point, and the next frag is going to decide it.
cha1n has to be so careful right now, because one wrong move, one bad choice, putting yourself up close and personal with Keo, rapha, with those rockets, with those grenades, it could all be over in an instant. But so far, cha1n has been in control. But it's so difficult because look at how good rapha's positioning is. He's always sticking to these areas where he knows that he's got the ability advantage, where he can make those rockets and grenades really speak for themselves. And cha1n has to kind of play around that while still looking for a bit of an advantage, for an opportunity to get the frag.
Yeah, we went from super aggressive Rapha to now the I am going to play super smart and sneaky. And rightfully so. One frag decides it all here on our first map. Rapha trying to keep the perfection and map wins alive here. cha1n looking to shut him down, and what a huge victory it would be. He only needs one more, so playing it as slow as possible is probably the right way to go. Rapha did get hit and down to 65 points of health. He's got to be very, very careful here, as you can see him trying to find some more lights and a little bit of health. And he is going to rat into this room and grab what he needs to. But look at the pace of the game and how much it has changed the last 2 minutes.
This is aggressive. This is risky. cha1n is pushing into the kill zone. 27 points of health. Rapha, can he get out of the room alive? One rail, it misses. Barely shooting by Rapha's head, missing him by an inch, and now he takes away the heavy. And all of a sudden, cha1n no longer looking as good as he was just moments ago. That one rail weed that could have done it. And now the stacks are basically tied. cha1n has to be so careful. That rail.
Yeah, that's you want to avoid some good damage coming out from Rapha. But both about even. Rail does hit from cha1n. Rapha backs out a little bit, but sets himself up to grab that heavy. Now Mega also grabbed by cha1n. And Rapha just, both players looking for this opportunity to deal damage without taking damage, obviously. And both have been successful at it, but neither has netted a frag from it. 3 minutes into this overtime. And I would imagine the sweat's starting to pour at this point, Flea.
This is, Rapha is now finally in position to maybe get that first Mega in a while.
I think you're right. Through the teleporter, cha1n goes through. He gets railed onto the Mega, but that's okay. Rapha decides, oh, that's fine. I've got the heavy waiting for me. So he didn't get the Mega. I think cha1n needed that too. Definitely a fight over these major items. And if one player were to scoop up the cycle, it could be pretty bad for the other.
But that worries me a bit for cha1n though. Oh, especially after that combo. Like, you could see Rapha just slowly getting back into things and then being the first one to get position on Mega, which has been cha1n's item for the past 3 minutes. Like, these are the signs of Rapha regaining dominance.
Ooh. Of dance around the teleporter, and heavy was up, but cha1n did grab it. Rapha kind of getting hit out of position to be able to do that, but I love him sitting on this middle area right here, looking for all of the entrances that cha1n might come through. He does land a little bit of rocket damage. cha1n now, that stack of major items has pretty much been depleted. 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. Yeah, Rapha sits on the top, and there's that Mega. He's going to be able to make over to heavy, and if he grabs both, this could be that cycle control that we talked about, and there it is.
That's what I was worried about. When Rapha was allowed to just cleanly sit on Mega with a 4-second delay between the items, you knew what was coming. You knew that Rapha would be able to take Mega first and then move over to heavy as well. And get both of the major items, while cha1n is relegated to the bottom area of the map with next to nothing in terms of stack. This is what Rapha had to deal with in the beginning of this overtime, but it has completely flipped around. And now cha1n somehow desperately has to find a way into it, but those rails aren't helping. This might be it, the decisive fight of the map. Rapha, one more rail. cha1n clinging on for dear life.
It is cat and mouse, but now clearly Rapha is the cat. His stack from Mega and heavy is starting to deplete down, but he did so much versus cha1n. cha1n with no armor right now. Rapha even scooping up a lot of those lights. And cha1n just wondering how he gets back into this one. Rapha finds him, lands a nice rocket, falls up. That one does not connect, but once again, he finds himself within a position where if he rails cha1n, it is over. The LG comes out, dropping down into the rail run. He's going to chase on this one, and a shotgun to the face. 11-10 is the final score. But what a game these two gave us, and cha1n coming out so early with that lead at 1.6 frags over Rapha. Rapha playing almost unorthodox to his own style, right? Going overly aggressive and kind of handing some of these frags over to cha1n, but he is the GOAT for a reason. I really, Flea, I thought for certain that we were getting to a point where Rapha was not going to be able to bring that back.
I had faith with, I like rapha. In my eyes, he's the comeback king of Quake. I think that if you're playing the man, you can be 5 frags ahead and still feel like, you know, you're trailing, you're behind already. He's just that oppressive and so consistent in these comebacks. It really felt at one point like 4 frags in a minute, in exactly 1 minute. It did seem out of reach almost, but rapha somehow pushed it back. I think cha1n, he could have played that slightly better, those final few, or that final minute, really. Made a few mistakes in terms of positioning that gave rapha quite a bit of free damage. But then in the overtime, I think if you listen back to the VOD, I make an audible gasp when I feel that it's over. I could tell when rapha, at one point, cha1n went down to railgun, and rapha was just like, and this is it.
Yeah.
rapha makes a move and he sets up on Mega first, and that is the moment that it was over. Because from that moment onwards, rapha takes Mega first. Yes, he ends up taking a bit of damage, but he gets to Heavy as well, and there are 4 seconds between Mega and Heavy. And then that was basically it. rapha takes Mega first, goes to Heavy, gets in full control. cha1n is zoned out of the map, pushed further and further and further back. And yeah, the end result ends up being predictable, but cha1n really had a few opportunities right there. rapha was railable. cha1n misses him by an inch. He's going to regret that. He's going to regret that one.
There's a, you know, I mean, cha1n, you could say that Mega Health was kind of his home, right? It was his item to own, but that also wasn't exactly coming in as big as the Heavy would have for Keel versus Galena, right? So although we saw him controlling that side of the map and you know, keeping on top of that, really well done, but it wasn't the greatest scenario for him either. And you know, you called it pretty early. The moment that rapha got a lock on both of the major items, that was really a big turning point. And I got to give cha1n credit though. I think in terms of especially how rapha was choosing to play, like his own you know, aggression that he was kind of throwing out, cha1n played that first 5 minutes in an incredible manner. But, you know, a lot of mid-range shots, long-range shots, hitting those rails, great anticipation and map awareness of where rapha is. rapha trying to throw him off his game a little bit with some of that aggression. He was landing his shots. His rocket bounces were just absolutely favoring cha1n today. So, you know, nicely done. cha1n definitely deserves some props in that game. You know, rapha solidifies himself as GOAT by playing one way and then literally being able to change it in the final minute and a half to tie it up and then ultimately take the map win. Really impressive for any player to pull off.
Absolutely. That was one of the tensest series I've seen in quite some time.
Agreed.
5-minute overtime. I can't remember the last time I got to cast a game that went that far into OT. It was extremely tense. And now the question is, what does that do to the mental state of these players, right? Because I can really imagine cha1n. He had the opportunity with a 4-frag lead, 1 minute to go. rapha about to lose the first map of the stage. And then he just slips in between his fingers. And what does that do to him? I can easily imagine a player go like, that was it. That was the one chance I'm getting, and now just deflating going into the final 2 maps.
And if the railgun was a big contributor to that for cha1n, different story here on Keep. So suddenly that aggression from rapha gets like a +3 bonus. And I just want to shout out Donnie911. He said in chat, when rapha was down 4-8, he was like, okay, call an ambulance, but not for me. And I was like, that was pretty accurate. But here we go. We're already in the action, starting things out through the eyes of cha1n. He is going to get some early LG damage there as he tries to defend that position, uses the orb to send himself over to the side, but absolutely destroyed as rapha anticipating that, landing a perfect rocket, following up with some quick damage, and that is 1-0. And now he's got to be careful. We've talked about BJ on this map. That double LG can just absolutely melt everything that you've got away. But this is definitely now a time when that aggression is rewarded oftentimes here on Keep.
cha1n managed to stabilize pretty early on, though. So far, he stopped the bleeding, at least temporarily. Not looking in the best shape just yet, with 0 armor to his name, and rapha, no doubt, getting the drop on him there. But at least it didn't spiral out of control, and cha1n should be able to at least secure the Mega here. But armor, that's going to be something else altogether.
I mean, that's the scary part of seeing someone lock down control in such a phenomenal way here on Keep. And he is still looking for his first light. And it's just, you're not in a place where you feel safe to engage. Here we are, rapha kind of, I guess, holding him over in the heavy area. He will get kicked out of there, but grabs himself the Mega and another light. It's going to grab this other light as well. And suddenly, cha1n, has got the armor that he's got, but rapha using the control after kind of losing that heavy there. Dual wield is up, and let's see what he decides to do here as he sees cha1n go below him, and he now has an idea of exactly where he is. So look for him to try to make a pincher move here and trap cha1n in these back hallways.
cha1n actually with a bit of a stack advantage. Now it's all equalized once more, which is really impressive considering how this game started out, with rapha just rushing in with double shotgun of the spawn. But he really has just stabilized and stopped rapha's onslaught. 1-0, really not a big deal with 7 minutes left to go. cha1n now just needs to be careful and wait for the right time, make good use of that orb, find some good opening damage, and then get nice, close, and personal, because it takes a little while before you can pull out that second weapon and make advantage of that downtime where rapha can't retaliate instantly.
Those 2 bubbles picked up, but rapha put down the rain of machine gun fire to almost negate them. He knows his opponent's low, playing the long range with the machine gun and the tri-bolt. And this is a rough spot for cha1n to be in, because rapha could gain control of the heavy here, and it looks like exactly what he's going to do is he scoops it up, and he's going to try to go for the Mega as well. He's going to get them both. He pops the dual wield just to make sure he's not making a bad mistake here, so that will go kind of wasted, but it served its purpose, and the control is now firmly in rapha's hands.
rapha gets caught really badly right there. Yeah. He was not expecting cha1n to double back. He thought, I can just chase him down with LG. Well, he's got his back turned towards me, but then cha1n just turns around and lands a beautiful rocket to get the lead. But will he be able to hang on to it? He does get heavy, but is still so mighty tender right now. Barely with 30 health to his name. Now he does find those 2 health bubbles, so that's going to help him out a fair bit. But will it be enough to hold off rapha?
Oh, it's going to be rough. He's still very, very low. rapha knows exactly where he is, and now he's going to try to double back through the hallways. This is just going to set up another possible opportunity for rapha to scoop up both of these items yet again. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, actually. Well, maybe he is, as he goes in, and cha1n just was not there for it. He goes into the other room, and that means a big stack here for rapha. But the rockets from cha1n, once again, 3, 2, 1, knock him down. I don't know what he ate this morning for breakfast, Flea, but apparently his rocket launcher skill is up by 10 right now, as he has just been landing some phenomenal rockets in both of these games.
I kind of feel like some of these pushes are perhaps a bit too overly confident from rapha. Like, he's got max stack, right? He can just push in no matter what. But he can't forget, cha1n has got rockets and orb. And so cha1n has got 100 health, 50 armor. rapha says, okay, I've got 150, 150. I'm just going to bully you to death. And then before he knows it, cha1n is just like rocket, orb, and there we go. You're done, and I get another frag. So rapha is taking some of these engagements really up close and personal, and that's exactly where cha1n wants to play them.
Oh, right out of the teleporter with that LG in hand, a huge amount of damage done, and he ties it up with a shotgun blast to the face. We're halfway through this game, and now we get the tables turned there as rapha kind of catches cha1n off guard there, thinks he might have an opportunity to convert that frag, pulls out the dual wheel, but unfortunately cha1n's on the other side of the map, but that won't stop rapha from continuing to try to steal away this control. Ooh, almost sent him with that LG over the heavy and into the teleporter, but cha1n did grab it, and he needed it. He needs to try to, keep some level of control out of rapha's hands if he wants to try to get that frag back, and I absolutely think he can play. I mean, cha1n's been playing quite well. He's been handling rapha's aggression, and I don't think dual wheel has really helped rapha extend that frag at all. So out of the teleporter into the LG for cha1n, takes a little bit of damage, waiting for that heavy to pop up. He did grab it, but not before taking a little bit of damage, and Mega is going to go to rapha.
One frag in the lead for the American right now. cha1n still keeping this a very close game, and that's unusual because you very often see rapha just demolish people and run over them by the halfway mark on corrupted keep. Now that is an excellent rocket. cha1n not quite looking exactly where rapha was going to be there, and that's a hyper aggressive push. I don't know about that one.
Oh,
yeah.
Nasty. Yeah, if I was cha1n, I would have been out of there so fast, but he decided to stick around. Double shotguns come out, and that is scary. But there it is. The Rockets once again. rapha down to 12. cha1n following up with the machine gun and keeping this one close, Flea.
The last direct rocket from rapha was so clutch, though. He landed 100 damage rocket to the face just before he died. If he missed that shot, cha1n would have been able to pick up the heavy right now, and the tables would have been completely flipped. But rapha now still is able to get into that rhythm, the control that he had pretty much instantly. And cha1n is still in the same predicament that he was in a minute ago.
rapha with a hefty stack. Got to be careful, though, as the clock ticks away. You know, you don't want to extend yourself too far and then find yourself tied or down by one, while cha1n tries to just kind of claw back, and I think needs to be a little meticulous about how he is going to do that. And there it is, double wheel out of the teleporter. Big aggression coming out here from rapha. He's throwing everything he can. The orb back up into the shotgun, and cha1n made the right move, but unfortunately rapha read it perfectly, and he is now found himself finally for the first time up by 2 in this matchup. And cha1n unfortunately gets caught back out, up the jump pad, double shotty, 8-5, and that might have been the moment that the tower began to fall.
I think that rapha's really catching on to cha1n's strategy, which is get up close, go for rockets, and kind of hope for the best. And that's what worked on map 1, at least for most of it, right? That's how cha1n got the upper hand. He gets up close, throws down a totem, and gets good rocket damage off, in addition to the rails, where he just really outclassed rapha in those opening minutes of map 1. And that's really just been his strategy this time around as well. Go for the rockets, rush up close and personal, and rapha he's caught on. He's now playing a bit more cautious game, even though I do feel like he took too many risks this map still. But I don't see cha1n's strategy working in map 3 as well.
Yeah, I'll have to see as we're going to move on to Awoken. And this scoreline, unfortunately, will end up not showing how close this game actually was. So for those of us that were here to witness it live, we'll remember just how close this game actually was. But rapha might go down one final time here in the last 20 seconds, and he does. 10-6 could be the final score here. rapha looking good, and really actually holding his cha1n holding his own versus rapha on a map that, you know, rapha's exceptional at, and BJ didn't exactly show himself as the huge star that sometimes he is here on Corrupted Keep. But there it is. rapha takes the map. He'll win the series 2-0. Still a chance here for cha1n. It's going to be on Awoken, and it's definitely going to be a tough one, but I'm impressed with cha1n this week.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's great. I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment.
I feel like watching these past 2 weeks has been good. Yes, he lost to the Hang, but it came down to one single frag, and the Hang is still pretty consistently number 2 in the Americas, and now rapha, right, almost secured map 1, kept it a tied game, a 1 frag difference for what, 6 minutes on Corrupted Keep, which is one of rapha's best maps. I think very few people would doubt that. So this is starting to look more and more like the cha1n that we grew accustomed to back in stage 1 of this season, and I really hope that he can carry that over. There's still one more map to go. It is Awoken, 2 light champions going off against each other, so cha1n still has an opportunity. He can still secure and deny rapha his first map of this stage, but he's gonna have to work for it.
Yeah, I mean, you also just can't deny the fact that rapha, 2 games in now, probably, like you mentioned, knows exactly what cha1n is trying to do, what cha1n's rapha strategy is, and has kind of downloaded that. He has a clear idea of what he needs to do. So I do think as we continue on in maps, it gets harder and harder, you know, for cha1n to do what he wants to do, because rapha is a player that will adapt, that will go, okay, I got what you're doing here. It's even more difficult to then get away from your own strategy to try to mix that up here. So, you know, I know I said rapha, or excuse me, that cha1n, right, has a chance, and we talked about it. I mean, based off the last couple of maps, really impressive what he's done, but you can't forget the fact that rapha's also warmed up. He's downloaded cha1n. He knows what he's going to go after here. So Awoken, it could go it could go real bad here. It'll just depend on how cha1n's anarchy decides to bring it.
It's an interesting clash of champions, right? Because on the one hand, they are very nimble, they're very mobile. That's beyond dispute, but then the way in which they are mobile is very different, right? rapha has got that wall jump, so he's got the vertical height working in his favor, whereas cha1n has got the ejection and the air control, so he's much faster to accelerate and to move around just horizontally throughout the map. So very different style of movement when you compare these 2 champions. Add on to that the fact that they both have low stacks to begin with. They spawn with 0 armor to their name, and well, this could be a very feisty matchup, or it could once again be slowed down to a crawl. I think that it will mainly be rapha who dictates the pace, because he's the one who's got the ghost walk, right? That's the get out of jail free card, and I can see him be more careful and deliberate with how he uses that to set the pace of the game.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So position, patience, and it's a good chance we might see that ghost walk come out kind of used in an offensive way, try to surprise his opponent. But I'm excited for Awoken to see what these 2 players have here. cha1n's, I think cha1n's aim and his initial strategy on point. He's got to keep that aim alive, but I am kind of curious how rapha will approach this one. We saw him increase the tempo of his own aggression from game 1 into game 2 into a really comfortable position, and he might just start out of the gates with 5 eyes and you know, looking for revenge. I don't know what he's getting revenge for, but I feel like that's just how he feels. It's like I let cha1n get too close in the scoreline.
Might very well be the case, knowing rapha. This is a man, a perfectionist. And I do think that he wishes that that first map was settled a lot sooner than it was. Now we're starting off on cha1n's point of view. He's running the Anarchy. Holding on to that injection, doesn't want to pop it straight away to get the health boost. Probably has something to do with the fact that he spawned over at Mega as well, so that immediately makes it a lot less important to go for the injection straight off the bat. But rapha is very quick to take control of the middle area of the map. Good thing for cha1n that rapha missed that rail.
Oh, but lands that one. Mega does make it hurt a little less, but not that much, as he's going to grab the light there as well, and that means rapha gets the heavy. And suddenly the tables have turned a bit as rapha's rail really seems to be on, and cha1n was using that medium to long distance sort of fight strategy. Not as easy to do here on Awoken. Got to play a lot of the angles, got to really play up the positioning. And I do think that rapha kind of favored here. And as he heads into the mega room, rapha waiting with that LG. A lot of damage dished out, and cha1n does not want to be fighting with the stack like that. Gets hit with a rail and then a follow-up, and rapha gets the first frag.
Pretty odd as well. cha1n just hanging on to the injection right there and kind of walking up the stairs in a straight line. Didn't seem like he really tried to dodge or maybe use the injection to speed up getting to that center platform where he had a life-saving small armor waiting for him. And after a relatively slow opening minute, rapha has now strung together 2 quick frags.
Oh, he hit cha1n as he was coming to that teleport too. cha1n really hurting. Ghostwalk is popped. cha1n is running away, but rapha just waits outside the teleporter, catches him on his exit with the LG, and now it is 3-0. And I'm just trying to think here how cha1n really does start to bring it back, because it'd be, I don't know, disingenuous to say step 1 is stop getting hit by rapha's rails, because that is what is opening up the doors. But that's just not an easy thing that you change as a player. So rapha raining down the rockets on top of that heavy. It is stolen away, but rapha gets the frag, and that might be worth more than the heavy right now.
Kind of seeing the opposite of what we saw on map 1. This time around, rapha is hitting 60% rail. cha1n 0 has fired 4 rails connected with not a single one of those. And like you said, that just adds to the problem, right? rapha opens the door into the fight with the rail. That's just how he's been approaching this. Land the rail. Okay, I know my opponent doesn't have armor, has nothing to work with, and he just pushes in super aggressively. Oh my god.
Man,
that rocket cha1n.
That is, I mean, Flea, I feel like rapha's like, hey, I have good rockets too. And suddenly he has just been turning it up. cha1n gets hit again, bounced up, and the LG becomes, or cha1n becomes an easy target for that LG. 6-0 right now. Talked about the fact that rapha was going to get more comfortable in his game, and 3 minutes, 29 seconds in, we're definitely seeing a level of comfort that I think it could lead to even more frags here on the board.
cha1n finally landing some of those railgun shots, but does it even really matter when rapha has that stack advantage? Oh, hang on.
Ooh.
cha1n. Oh no, the rail! I don't know. I think cha1n must have had super shotgun right there, because he was right next to it. Or maybe even machine gun. Like 2 bullets would have done it.
I didn't get a chance to pop over and see what he had in his arsenal, but I had a feeling when he shot that second rail that it wasn't much. He didn't have the right, what I think he needed to complete the job there. rapha down in the heavy room is, wow, it takes a risk going back up the jump pad a second time. 9-0, and the confidence is growing. Finally, we do see cha1n on the board with a couple of rails, which is nice, but unfortunately, rapha is in clear control here.
Indeed he is. Solid rockets from above as well. And another one for good measure, straight to the top of the head. Oh, wow. cha1n in chat already calling GG. Wait, we're not even 5 minutes into this map.
I was gonna ask you a question, Flea. Like if you did not get to watch a Quake game, and we gotta fight here, but if you didn't get to watch a Quake game, and I was like, here were the scores, Flea: 11-10, 10-6, and 15-0. What would you take away from that third game, right? Would you actually go, man, maybe he was so angry that he just sundered it, just brought his inner Goku out and his power level was too much?
I mean, that is kind of what it felt like, right? rapha has just been a dominant force throughout this entire map. cha1n, he had a few opportunities here and there, but started off with the railgun just being oppressively strong on rapha's end. 60% accuracy on an anarchy, that is no easy feat. And then rapha kind of just got into the swing of things, right? Mega heavy, okay, I'm just gonna start making my rounds. Really good use of the ghost walk as well, popping it aggressively several times, and then cha1n just there were 1 or 2 opportunities where I feel like cha1n kind of squandered an opportunity to make a comeback happen, right? Especially the one where he went up the bounce pad over at Mega. Rapha was on 13 points of health and cha1n goes for the rail. You know, those just destroy any sort of mental fortitude that cha1n might have had left. But that rocket, that was a beautiful prediction. Exactly where Rapha was going to come out of the Ghost Walk. But does it even matter, Wheat? Does it even matter?
I mean, hey, in the last minute, cha1n has showed, you know, more potential in this matchup than he did in the first 5 minutes for sure, hitting 2 rails in a row that he's needed. He's been able to convert these frags. He comes out of that fight very, very low, but, you know, 4-13, that's a hell of a lot better than, you know, 13-0. He's hitting more shots. I think he's, you know, attacking where he should. But you know, as Rapha now disengages here and we get back into kind of the swing of control, can cha1n keep that up? He's misses that rail, and those are the doors that are going to open for him as he sees his opponent go through the teleporter. Rocket jumps for the miss and has to go up the jump pad for the Mega. cha1n looking for some armor, finds it right there, but got about 2.5 minutes remaining here. cha1n continues to hit some of those rails. Is his opponent going to follow him through the teleporter? Answer's no, but this one is definitely over. I think now you could probably call it, but cha1n turns up the heat a little bit here in the last minute or so.
You also can't forget the champion that Rapha is running right now. Even if cha1n gets some sort of momentum going, he essentially has to kill Rapha twice for each frag. Because Rapha just pops the Ghost Walk and reappears on the other side of the map, and we just know how talented Rapha is when it comes to just playing the positional game, evading his opponent. I really just don't see any sort of way for cha1n to make a comeback happen by now.
Ghost Walk's going to come out. He's following cha1n, getting ready for that shotgun block. And there it is. He pops him twice. There it is, number 4. Will net him his 15th frag. 15-5 with 1.5 minutes left to go. And Rapha keeps the dream alive as he still has not dropped a map here in Stage 3 as we enter into Week 8. Hard to believe that we're already halfway through this stage already. And still exciting to see Rapha strive for perfection.
I am very excited to ask Rapha about map 1. I want to hear like his explanation, 1, of how that opening half just went so wrong for him on a map that he's traditionally really strong at, and 2, how he started making that comeback a reality.
Yeah, you know, please do, right? I think it's really interesting when you're also a player who, through your skills and your results, you kind of show and set an expectation. So when we see a game like that, especially when, you know, everyone's like 97% in favor of you winning, and your last 2 matches have just been absolute stomps, you set an expectation that, like, hey, you're gonna do that to every player that isn't named Rapha, and that's just not what happened. I'm curious to kind of hear, you know, how you deal with that in a situation like that. It's not the first time he's been there, but man, that was a hell of a comeback that we saw in game 1. I'm still kind of blown away from what we saw, but I don't know. Final seconds tick away. 19-5 is the final score. Rapha takes all 3 games away, but cha1n certainly put on one hell of a show. We hopefully will get an interview with Rapha, but let's bring Ketchup back in and see what he has to say about these games.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what I'm going to say here is kind of what everyone else is thinking about that first map. It was kind of out of this world, really. We know that comebacks like that are always possible, but you're just not used to seeing them quite to that extreme. And then the rest of the maps that followed, especially that last one, I think cha1n really kind of throwing in the towel about halfway through. It was a rough road in that 3rd map, but I think momentum and, if anything, the steam just started to leave his body, didn't it?
I do think so as well. I mean, that first loss, that has to be a tremendous mental blow, right? He managed to stick with it and keep focused for map 2, at least for the first 6 minutes or so, but eventually that just has to take a toll. When you bring Rapha that close to the limit, 5-minute overtime against a man who hasn't lost a single map this stage, and then it all just goes so terribly wrong, that's rough. That just does a number on you.
I mean, you look at the final scores of all 3 games. We talked about the comfort level of Rapha and how he likes to settle into the match that he's in his opponent he's up against. 11-10, 10-6, 19-5. You know, whether or not he expected those results, you know, I don't know. But clearly you see the improvement, the confidence, the comfortable sort of aura that Rapha took from map 1 all the way to map 3. So just really impressive. I'm still really impressed with cha1n. I think he still has that shining bright something in him, and I want to see it, and I want to see it continue to develop and get better and find consistency, but we didn't necessarily get that in this matchup.
Indeed, it's going to be very interesting to pick Rapha's brain. I'm sure we all have a few questions for him after what just transpired. In the end, though, no real surprises. 3-0 once again. Rapha continues making his way throughout the stage without dropping any maps yet.
Well, it's actually funny that you should mention that, Flea, because it just happens that we have Rapha on the line, and I think we all kind of know what we're going to talk to him about above all else. So first of all, Rapha, well done. Thanks for giving us a good show.
Thanks, Ketchup. Appreciate it.
So, right, you've been on camera this stage so much, you may as well be a 4th member of talent, first of all. It seems like every week we've got you here. But I tell you what, we have something new to talk about this week, right? And that is the first map and the comeback that you were able to make. I mean, it's a bit of a generic question to ask, but because we don't see comebacks like that often here in Pro League, when you're in that stage and there's a chance that you can come back, how do you specifically, like, what goes through your mind when you're having to make that kind of performance?
Just to put it simply, today is one of those days where I talked about before last stage playoffs, where some days just do not feel good, and it doesn't matter, you know, whether it feels, you know, optimal for you or not. You have to find a way to make it work and to adjust your game a little bit to be able to win. As you could see through the first half of that game, like, I'm taking fights that I normally, you know, do decent damage with, can follow up with opportunities, and it was just not a good first half for me. So I just had to start changing my style a bit, like what type of weaponry I could, you know, try to make work, try to read how he's approaching the map. And you have to just stay in it. You have to keep yourself mentally in it, never give up, always just keep trying to problem solve on what the next thing is. Like, you can't fix what happened behind you. You can just focus on what the next problem is that hopefully snowballs it into coming back so that you can tie the game. And I managed to do so right before, but I knew, like, going into it, okay, I may, even if I tie the game, it could be a situation where I lose in overtime right away because of the amount of time that's left in the game, the way the cycle was going. So that's why the overtime lasted quite a while. I knew right away as soon as I got the frag, I was like, okay, he's going to get a good spawn for the next rotation. So I have to do my best to play survival mode now and just give myself another chance. And yeah, I'm just really glad I was able to do that. Because, like I said, it was a very, very tough game for me to play through and to try to output the type of damage and situations that would normally work for me. But thankfully, as the set went on, it got better and better. And yeah, I'd also liked, I think he was playing very, very well today. I think the first 2 maps, mentally, he was really in it. He was making good decisions. He was playing the style that he should for himself. I think he just kind of got mentally exhausted come the 3rd game. So just kind of gassed out.
Oh, well, I guess I'll take it then, since we just staying silent.
I was waiting.
So, Rapha, congratulations, first of all. Just a bit of a general question. Your next matchup should be Zeneku, if I'm not mistaken, who is the only other player in NA who has yet to lose a series. So, how do you feel about that match coming up, playing someone else who's only lost 1 map this entire stage?
I'm just excited to play him regardless of what his record would have been because of how he's been improving. So it'll be a good gauge of because how many matches do I have left? I have three matches left. So it'll be a good gauge of kind of what's left in my game that I should shore up going into the playoffs. Just based off of the meta, how I'm playing, how other people are playing, and yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it next week. Every time that I play Zeneku, it's super, super close. I can't remember a game where it's been an absolute blowout. So looking to have more games towards like the first and second one that happened today happen next week.
Rapha, congratulations. I want to go back to game one here a little bit,
Sure.
Especially to kind of build off of your narrative of what you talked about, where it's like, when you have those days that just don't quite feel right. As we were watching, Scale got banned, went with Keel, and then it looked like you still went in playing in a Scale Bearer-esque way, right? We saw what I would classify as definitely some aggression and not necessarily like really smart aggression, but like, again, I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna go for it. Right?
If you thought it was dumb, just say
it. It was unorthodox.
He just hates
right?
Scale Bearer.
So
we have to deal with it every week.
Shut up, you guys. So no, I'm curious. You mentioned that like you felt like things were right. You had to figure out. You had to problem solve what was working, and one of those seemed to be like, I'm going to use the aggression that rightfully I have as Keel. When do you know to like let off the gas? And from our perspective, we felt, man, Rapha's given away a couple frags there because of this aggressiveness. How are you? What is going through your head in that regard? Is it like, well, I've given away too many now, let's switch it up, or I'm going to do this until I grab it and then run with it and try to bring this back?
Well, I kept going for it in the beginning because the situations called for it. Like in that matchup, you can't allow Galena to play super slow, and you can't let her build up the Totem Fortress because Keel doesn't have the mobility that Scale or Sorlag have in the tank versus the medium matchup there to be able to be like, okay, it's fine. Eventually I can just out-rotate you with my mobility and then do something. No, when you find certain situations where the Galena is a little overextended or pushing just a bit much, like the totem is coming back soon and they're really trying to stretch a fight out so they can use it and turn around, you need to capitalize before that happens and to get your kills. But I just was not dealing good damage at all in the beginning. Like I said, just did not feel right today. So by about the 5-minute mark, it's like, all right, well, even though this typically works, I can't keep beating my head against a wall. I have to try to change it up and keep myself within the game, and then just as long as I give myself a chance. That's all I just kept thinking about. Just give myself a chance. Just do what I need to do to keep myself in the game. And I'm just glad that when I had to be aggressive at the end, I finally hit some shots. Like things felt good. They finally connected, and I was able to, take it to overtime. Because, yeah, it's like at that point, the situation is forced on you. You're the one that has to be aggressive because you are down. But, yeah, so... That's just the way.
Well, it was great.
It
No, I appreciate it. I think that it's always incredible to kind of get to open up that brain a little bit and see a little bit of what goes on in there. So really appreciate it. Congratulations again. I mean, game one will go down as probably game of the week. It was great to watch. Everyone enjoyed it. So.
Yep.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, mate. I'm sure if you check your social media, everyone has been tagging you, and you will be able to see positive reactions quite rightly around that same time. So congratulations again from all of us. Thanks, you for your time, and well played all round.
Well played.
Ooh, people. We have one more series left to go, and oh, is it a doozy? It's going to be right as we come after this break. The final series of the day will officially begin. Quake Pro League, don't go anywhere. In 5 minutes' time, we'll be back.